Charlotte.
Hey Hedy, nice to see you. How you doing?
Nice to see you too. I'm good. How are you doing? What's new with you?
I'm well, thank you. And what's new is tonight is actually quite a special night in the Scottish calendar.
Oh, really? What's happening tonight?
So the 25th of January is called Burns Night. Have you heard of Burns Night?
I think I may have, but what is Burns Night? I'm sorry to ask.
It's okay. It's not really something that people celebrate down south, but on the 25th of January, we celebrate Robert Burns, who is like the national poet of Scotland. And it's a kind of patriotic night where we do a lot of culturally Scottish things. So we eat the traditional Scottish meal, which is haggis, neeps, and tatties, which is like haggis, which is the Scottish dish, and then potatoes and turnips, basically. We also have like traditional Scottish dancing, which are called ceilidhs, and people wear traditional dress like the kilts.
Yeah.
And we read the poetry of Robert Burns as well, so it's very nice.
Wow, so in my head, I pictured it when you said Burns Night. I was picturing a kind of Guy Fawkes bonfire-esque night, but there's like no bonfires or fire or burning involved at all, right?
No, just, if you've got a gas stove and you're cooking the tatties, the potatoes on the gas
I guess
stove.
just for cooking, yeah. But so it's literally just a night celebrating a poet?
Yeah, and
wow.
sort of, it's a Scottish thing. It's like a very cultural kind of Scottish time. So I'm going to have my mum and my stepfather over for Burns supper, and we'll have some haggis that I've made, but it's vegetarian because
nice.
I don't eat meat, and we'll have a dram, which is the word for just a portion of whiskey, I guess.
Ooh, very fancy. But so you said that your family will be coming to your house, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Hedy. Because I live in an apartment on my own, which brings us nicely onto the conversation that we were going to have today. The topic of this podcast today is moving out.
So yeah, great segue there, Charlotte. Good job.
Thank you very much. So we're talking about leaving the nest, or fleeing the nest, as we say in
Fleeing
English.
the nest. I know it sounds quite funny. Flee the nest. It sounds like you have to escape.
Yes.
But
so have you flown the nest yet, Hedy?
Well, I guess technically, I did move out, but so traditionally people in the UK, they tend to move out at the age of 18, so when they go to university. But for me, I stayed at home for uni because I went to uni in London and I'm from London. So to me, it just made sense to stay at home than like spend even more money. But then I actually moved out after I graduated, and I didn't just move out of my house. I moved out of the country. So I went to South Korea and I lived there for a couple of years. But now I've come back and I've moved back in. So.
Oh, wow. So it's been quite a journey.
So I'm like, go hard or go home, all or nothing kind of person. So, it's either leave the country or stay home forever. But what about you? What has your experience been?
Well, like you, I moved out. Well, no, not like you. So you lived at home during university.
Yeah.
And I did the traditional thing for lots of British people, which is I moved into student accommodation in my first year, and then I lived in a flat that I was sharing with some random students. So I had 4 flatmates in my first year, and then often you then choose your favourites or the friends that you've made, and then you
like the Hunger Games.
Exactly.
Flatmates,
and you try and form a new kind of house that's hopefully compatible. And in second year, we went and found a share house privately. And share houses in the UK are very common, right? Like, we've got these old Victorian houses that are far too big and far too expensive, and the only way that younger people can afford to rent them is by kind of joining up with other young people and then renting out separate rooms.
Yeah. So that's quite different because I remember when I was in Korea, I think traditionally in Korea, people like live with their parents, until they, I think, get married most of the time, pretty much. So even like some people live with their parents until like their 30s, which to my parents is probably their worst nightmare. So I think they can't wait to get rid of me. But yeah, so I found that so interesting, like how different it is. Like once we turn 18 here, it's just kind of like, okay, bye.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you don't move back in. Like you've experienced, you've moved back in. I definitely moved back in. I did live, like at university, I lived in student flats, and then I lived in my own flat with friends during term time. But I still had my room in my mum's house. All my stuff was there. I
hadn't sold it on eBay yet, so
exactly. I still went home on holidays. I essentially hadn't really moved out, but then I moved back in for a while. Worked some service jobs that didn't pay very well. It was more of a financial decision. And then, like you, when I went abroad, that's when I properly cleared out. I got rid of a lot of my stuff. I boxed it all up and I moved out of my room and I left and then of course I lived abroad for 2 years, and when I came home, where did I go? Yep. Back to my mum's. So I moved back in then.
Come crawling back.
Yeah, and then out, and it's funny because it tends to be something that maybe you have to return there at different stages in life because of you're between jobs, or you're between flats, or you've just come back from abroad, like
figuring life out. Yeah,
and it's a huge privilege that we have that. You have that like stable place that you can always go back to.
And not everyone has that as well. So definitely, I'm very lucky that I can live at home. But I think even if I wanted to move out, like I would love to move out, but just at the moment, just financially, it's like, especially in London, it's just impossible. But I've heard this is also a big issue in Korea as well. Like a lot of young people, they would move out if they can, but it's just like impossible with like the housing market. So so I feel like nowadays we see a lot more people living at home than you would have maybe like, I don't know, especially like my parents' time.
Yeah, and it's why I chose to live up north. So we both work remotely, and I do have the option of going to live in London, and it would be great because I could hang out with you and other Britcent friends, of course. But financially, I can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the north of England, and that
would be like not even a shed in London. Yeah, that's not even a patch of grass in London.
Exactly. Like, so it's just where you are, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But so I'm now living independently again, much to my relief, because I'm a much better human when I live on my own.
Oh my god.
What about you? Because you've moved back in. How are you finding it? Are there any tensions?
Well, I don't know if you've heard about this before, but one thing I've heard is that often when people move back in to like their parents' house, or like the family house growing up, they kind of almost like revert back to the age they were when they were living there. So I feel like now sometimes I feel like, oh my god, I'm like almost a teenager again. So sometimes I forget I'm 25 and I'm just like, Mom, like even just now I had to say like, Mom, I'm recording a podcast. So
it's true, listeners, she did. I was there.
Yeah, I literally, Charlotte heard me say that. So so sometimes it's kind of weird because it's like, oh my god, like I don't feel like an adult. But when I was like living by myself, I was like, okay, I can't rely on anyone else. Like this is all on me. So I think it is a really good experience moving out. But
I definitely vibe with that. I definitely have done my fair share of regressing when moving back in to my mum's.
Yes, regressing, that's the word, right? Yeah.
So, and I notice it. It's like I said, I'm definitely a better version of myself when I live alone. I have control over my own environment and my own cooking and my own schedule. And that just makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, when I go back and return to family, it's like a big warm hug going back.
No place like home.
Yeah.
And yeah.
On that note,
yeah, so I'm regressing. Charlotte is moving onwards and upwards. But yeah, on that note, it was lovely to talk to you again, Charlotte. I hope you have a great time tonight. I really want to try your vegetarian haggis. I will definitely come up north for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I'll be your new roommate, flatmate, housemate.
I let slip that I have a second bedroom. Oh no.
Oh, big mistake, Charlotte. You're going to live to regret that now.
Oh no, okay.
So...
yes, we'll have like a little Britcent burn stuff. Alright.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yes, see you later.
See you later, Hedy. Nice to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.